Now, let me translate that into virology. There is no recorded published study, right? Not one, where anybody took a sick person, whether with measles, chickenpox, COVID, AIDS, Ebola, any of those set of symptoms, and found this entity, this organism called a virus in any fluid or tissue of that sick person. And that is, here's the thing.
And that's the fact. There's no paper that published that information.
Now, everybody actually agrees with that. Even the CDC, the virologists, the scientists, the medical doctors don't know anything about it. But everybody agrees that that's the case. Now you say to them, okay, you have a person who's sick with, say, measles, right? They have all the symptoms, or chickenpox. And you look through their snot and their lungs and their rash, and you cannot find anything that you could call a virus. That's the fact. And you say, why not? And they say, it's not enough to see. and you think, since the theory that it causes disease is it explodes your cells,
yeah,
there's not enough to see. That means there's less than a pinhead, like a lot less than a pinhead. Now, the question then is, how does this thing that is found in you in, ultra microscopic quantities, what is the theory that it's making you sick?
Yeah.
Well, we don't know, or they make up something. Now, so those are the facts. And now you say, okay, let's go back to the gremlin. You say, well, what makes you think it was the gremlins, right?
Right.
And you say, well, because I found some stool, some scat, some feces. And I think it was from the gremlin. And you say, how do you know it was from the gremlin? Well, we don't really know, because it turns out mosquito feces and rat feces and kitten feces and fly feces, they all look the same. But we think, we have reason to think it was from gremlins. Now, here's the thing. Most people understand that unless you start with the whole, you can't use a piece or a part of something to identify the whole. In other words, if you've never seen a unicorn or a gremlin, you can't know that the feces came from the gremlin or that the hoof came from a unicorn, especially if it turns out the feces from a unicorn or a gremlin is identical to the feces, or almost identical to the feces of a fly or a mosquito, or the piece of a hoof. And you say, I found a piece of a hoof, it must be from a unicorn. Well, it turns out cows have hooves, and pigs, I think, have hooves.
And horses and everybody.
And horses and all the rest of it. Now, let's translate that to virology. They say, we can't find the thing, the virus, in any sick person. So we do a test for the DNA or the RNA, and we find it. And it turns out, and you say to them, how do you know it came from the gremlin?
Exactly. I mean, how do they know that the DNA belongs to a virus when they can't isolate a virus?
Right. If you haven't started with the gremlin and purified it and then found out what it's made of, and they never did that. So the answer to that is, well, they have all kinds of excuses, and they don't have an answer. And then they say, well, we took the snot from the person with measles, right? And we put that on monkey kidney cells.
That's right. The famous monkey kidney cells.
We added fetal calf serum and milk and antibiotics, antimycotics, antifungals, and took away the nutrients from the culture and the culture disintegrated. It broke down, and that proves it was the virus. And you think, are you kidding me? In other words, you put the gremlin well, you can't see a gremlin. You put the bits of the house in something, and then something happens, and you say it was a gremlin. Now, they do that all the time. They say, we exposed a person or an animal or injected them with, quote, the virus. And then you read the paper, and what did they actually injected them with? Either unpurified snot from somebody, or they did this culture, and the culture broke down. So now you have dead kidney cells and fetal calf serum, both of which have DNA and RNA. You got antibiotics, you got all kinds of stuff in there. And they put that on, they expose an animal to that, and they say, see, it was the virus. Now, you don't know that it wasn't the amphotericin or the gentamicin or I don't think I want to be injected with dead kidney cells, or fetal calf serum got sucked out of the heart of a still alive, in utero calf. Like, I don't think that's good for people. And yet that is how they prove viruses exist. And my
But
point
how
is,
did physicians fall for this? How did, intelligent, smart, aware, qualified physicians and scientists fall for this?
they don't know. They never read. Until I had, and I've been in, I was an HIV dissident for 30 years. But until 2 years ago, I never read a paper all through medical school, residency, never heard how they found a virus. Not once. Nobody ever said it. Nobody ever questioned it. And I would encourage everybody, here's your homework. Go to your family doctor and ask them, how does a virologist know the existence of a virus and prove that it caused disease? And they will give you the dumbest answers you can imagine. Well, a consensus of virologists agree that it exists. So I usually say, what percentage of virologists do you have to have say it exists before you know it's true? Well, 96%. So if 95% say it's true, then it's not true. I mean, that's ridiculous. Like, you take a vote, they don't know. Ask them. Go to your doctor, go to your local head of infectious disease and say, tell me how you know there's a virus. They won't have a clue.